If you check this out real quick and you look at what's streaming the most right now, right? And people were really getting at Diablo because it's super casual. Look at that, 20K versus 6K. The people that streamed it the most that I follow aren't even playing the game. Nobody's touching that game. And it's because it's so fucking hardcore. They said they weren't gonna do that. It wasn't supposed to be a hardcore game. Right? They made it a reskinned, upgraded version of the original game. Right? Look, 700K followers because Diablo is casual friendly. It's casual friendly. It's not so convoluted. They added more nodes in Path of Exile 2 to the fucking tree. Did you add more skill points? Do you realize how difficult it is to level in that game past a certain level? Because of how much you die. Defense is so convoluted in this game. That's the worst part about this game, is its defense modifiers versus the offensive modifiers you gotta deal with versus high level mobs, right? And players, like, you play this game and you expect, after seeing the initial release during the early access when they were doing all of the trailers and talking about this game, you like hoping that it was a upgraded, or what Diablo 2's predecessor should have been, where Diablo, what is this, 4 or 5, has fucked up. And that's not the case, right? Everybody was getting that Diablo, but look, it's performing better. And everyone's gonna say, well, people are just waiting for the full release of Path of Exile 2. That's gonna be a while. That is gonna be a while. They haven't released all the classes. Okay, cool. But I'll be honest with you, Path of Exile 2, Path of Exile is like a one button game. You don't want to have to click a million buttons because of the sheer amount of mobs and how strong they are. It's better to just focus on one skill and overpower that one skill with a whole bunch of buffs than it is to actually play the game the way Path of Diablo 2 should have been played. Even Diablo, the newer Diablo, right? What Path of Exile 2 should have done was add cooldowns to the skills, so it promotes people using more skills and make those skills more impactful, stronger skills. Stop adding new nodes to the fucking skill tree. Make this skill tree nodes more impactful so that the build's a little bit easier. It's already hard enough to level up in that game. You know what I mean? Never mind having to deal with more skill nodes now and not having as much skill points, right? Gorgeous game. It really is. And being somebody that got to endgame basically in Path of Exile 1 myself, I'm not gonna say I'm a genius. I followed guides. I did my own thing. It's a lot harder to do your own thing and build something in that game, especially with how defense works in Path of Exile franchise. I find that when I played Path of Exile 2 during its initial release, early access, it was a mess. Now, they said they've improved that, but the drop rates were really bad back then. I don't think the drop rates will have improved much during the campaign playing by yourself. You get a whole bunch of white items. Whatever yellow items you do find only have like 2 modifiers, and you don't get enough currency to be able to upgrade that shit. So you always feel like you're stagnating. You don't really feel like much of the upgrades are there. The only way that you can upgrade is basically having to vendor all of your items and then checking in to see if those vendors have decent white or blue gear that has more than 3 modifiers that you need to fix your build, but still doesn't take away from what you already have. That's the thing that they changed from Path of Exile 2, from Path of Exile 1, was that Path of Exile 1, you had to make a compromise based off of the slots that you had in your gear versus the stats, right? If you wanted to change over to something that had perfect stats but didn't have the slots and you don't have the currency, you'd be fucking your build or gutting your build based off of where you were at in the campaign and what you had, resources you had available, which would cause you to have to go back and farm, right? Which was kind of stupid. Nobody wants to do that. They want to get through the campaign so they can get to the end game. Path of Exile is all about its end game, right? That's what Path of Exile 2 and 1 is really what players are playing this game for. So I think they messed up. The balancing in Path of Exile 2 is not even good. The initial release was a mess because people were either one-shotting the bosses or the bosses were too difficult. the skills, a lot of skills felt insignificant, so it didn't really feel like some classes were viable to play because they felt like shit. So they felt so shitty to play that by time you had access to the end game, your character felt underwhelming, and it would take even longer to get through some mapping, right? And you would have to dawdle around certain tier maps for a while to acquire the gear that you need to be able to get your character to a place where they didn't feel so shit to play, right? Or you'd have to revamp your whole build, right, by skill resetting everything, which requires money. So it's like you still have to, the grind is still there. And if you remove the Path of Exile 2 is all about gear and rewards. The drops is where the dopamine comes from. You reduce that, you're removing the thing that people play Path of Exile 2 for, because the gameplay isn't fun without the drops, because you're gonna be dying a lot. You'll have to restart a lot, which sucks. Players don't like that feeling. I especially don't. A lot of people don't mind because they don't mind being punished. There are gamers there that are sadists. They enjoy being tortured. That's why they don't complain about these things. And they complain about the people on Reddit. If you ask me, the people on Reddit are normal ones because they're the ones calling the industry out for doing stupid shit. Whereas the people that play these games, this is just a game, I don't care. Like, they're the type of guys that like to get dildos in their
The mirror of
like,
Kalandra.
dude, stop it. You love you're glutton for punishment. You enjoy shit like that. Anyway, I'm deviating. My whole point of this whole rant is that Path of Exile 2 is underperforming compared to Diablo, and it's because Diablo caters to, I think it caters to not only hardcore players, because it does, but also very casual players, because it has difficulties and you can still get pretty far, I'm sure. I've only invested maybe under 100 hours in it, and this was a while ago before Vessel of Hatred. I have to play it again. So, but Path of Exile 2, I'm pretty sure I have over 300, maybe 400 hours, and I tried a couple classes, and that game felt really good when you're overpowered, but it's so easy for you to just get clapped one time and still not quite understand like why you died. Like, they've eliminated a lot of that happening, but it does still happen. And it's not like my gear was actually pretty godly, I'm not gonna lie. My gear was pretty good, but my build wasn't very good on my skill tree, because I wasn't building into energy shield, I wasn't building into evasion. I think I was building into armor, which at the time wasn't very good. I just needed a damage reduction for all the white and gold mobs hitting me, because I'd be up in their face, right? So like it's the Path of Exile 2 is very convoluted, and I like how complicated it gets, but dude, like, you guys gotta step your shit up. Seriously, take some notes from Diablo. You know, see what they're doing right to cater to their audience, because I think what they need to do is add a little bit of a skill cooldown, so people aren't just using one skill the whole time. Just go play Path of Exile 1 if you want to do that. You know what I mean? Because it takes away from what your vision was, which was having a predecessor to Diablo 2, which is a legendary game. It really is. And you ruined it by making it so similar to Path of Exile 1 that it's now basically just Path of Exile 2. You know what I mean? I know where you guys were going with it. You guys did a great job until you didn't. That's just my opinion.